Good morning and welcome everybody to the Kevin Davis Insurance February webinar. Today's webinar is the top 5 cyber concerns for community associations. My name is Sherry Branson and I'm your host. I'm now joined by Kevin Davis, the president of Kevin Davis Insurance. Good morning, Kevin.
Hi, Sherry. How you doing?
Doing well, thank you. Doing well. I hear you're getting a
Um,
little bit of rain out there in LA.
yeah, you know what? We had some of the best weather you can possibly imagine in February, and now comes rain, and it's going to screw it all up. It'll be cold again. So
Back to winter, back to real winter.
back to winter. Yeah, back to
Yeah.
our winter.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
luckily the rain, we need you guys need the rain, so that's good news.
All right. Okay. We'll go with that one.
I know it's not fun to drive in it, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Not in LA. Took
No,
me an
no,
hour and a half to get. Never mind. We're not going to talk about that.
no.
So.
Yeah, let's not do exactly.
Yeah.
And Kevin, we've got a great topic today. By the way, thank you everybody for joining us out there. I know you're really interested in learning about cyber insurance. And that's kind of the hot topic of 2016, isn't it, Kevin?
You know what? It is probably one of the hottest things going on right now. I mean, I just heard on the news one of our hospitals got hacked, and a whole place has been shut down, and they don't know what to do, and there's a ransom. I mean, it's all kind of, I mean, it's just amazing the kind of things that are happening, and it's happening more and more and faster. And that's why this talk today is really, really important, because our agents and brokers out there really don't understand cyber right now and what's going on. We hear about it, but we don't understand the coverage. Is it really needed for community associations? So I think today, hopefully, we can get a better understanding of what it's all about, what it really means to the people who really write community association or involved in the community association industry.
Absolutely. And if anybody would like a copy of today's presentation, please send me an email to sbranson@kdins.com, and I'm happy to send you a copy of it. And Kevin, now when we talk about cyber and cyber crime, what exactly is it and how does it impact community associations?
Okay. All right. Now, when we talk about being a victim of cybercrime, or somebody actually get into that system, the criminals really trying to do is gain unauthorized access for community associations, their funds. You talk about assessments, the reserve account, vendor payments. But what they also want is information about the people who live in the association. That's what's actually causing what we call a data breach.
Okay, a data breach. Now, can you tell everybody joining us today what exactly is a data breach?
Okay. A data breach is the acquiring of personal information that's unauthorized and compromises the security and confidentiality of personal information.
Okay, personal information. What exactly is that?
Okay. When we talk about personal information, we're talking about individual's first name and last name, plus social security number, driver's license number, any kind of account numbers, credit card numbers, or debit card numbers, combined with any security code or password. So you have to have these two things. So if you go to your board of directors, a homeowner association, and see like 10 social security numbers on a sheet of paper or on a laptop or computer, that's not a data breach. It has to be attached to the name in order for it to actually be a data breach.
Ah, okay, so you have to have those two items together, Kevin, for it to actually be a breach.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And when we talk about a data breach for community associations, this is where it's usually going to come from. It usually comes from people who leave their computers out in the open and then attach a password to it, and that password is usually welcome or 12345 6.
You know my password. No, I'm only kidding.
But you're laughing, and that's the reality of the whole thing is that
Mm-hmm.
we really do we have so many numbers to remember, but the one at work we care less about, so we tack it right there to our system.
On a sticky note.
Exactly. And the other thing that happens is that we always end up opening up those emails we shouldn't be opening up. You know,
Yes, I get a lot of
we
those. Mm-hmm.
yes, exactly. So that happens also. Then we have to talk about our lost laptops, our smartphones. When we talk about data breaches, that's what we're talking about for community association. Things like that happen, and for the level that we're at right now.
Absolutely. Now, Kevin, if a laptop gets lost, would that be considered a data breach or a smartphone and somebody, it's not recovered, it's gone, so it's in somebody else's hands?
Yeah, that's a good question because that's the difference between an incident and a data breach. Okay, the incident is the lost laptop, meaning that there's a potential for it to be a data breach because there's information on that laptop. A data breach is the actual loss of personal information. Now they open it up, and then there's information on there.
Ah, okay, interesting. Okay, and I know last year there was an incident with a property manager losing their laptop. So we've seen it actually happening, Kevin.
And the problem with that one was the fact that the laptop was not password protected. So it's like just leaving your laptop open there so anybody can go in there and get information.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference between that incident is that once you open it up, if there's personal information on that data, or on that hard drive, then there's a problem. If it's not, there may or may not be a problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I would think that where, with situations facing associations and property management companies like this, where laptops get lost or somebody gets a password to somebody's computer, that a data breach coach would really be necessary and come in handy.
And that's one of the good things about most of these cyber policies is that they provide a breach coach so that when you have a problem, you can pick up the phone and call. Our policy has a 30-minute call you can make to a data breach coach and say, guess what? I lost my laptop. What do I do now?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just wanted to share that again with everybody. There's a data breach coach available with the cyber risk policy that we carry. So if you have any questions about this, please speak to your underwriter or give us a call. And now, Kevin, with this hacking, there's so much hacking going on in the news. Every time you turn on the TV, health insurance companies, hospitals, like you said, I'm assuming that small businesses are very vulnerable as well.
Yeah. Yep. Hackers hack. That's what they do, Sherry. Some do it for fun, some do it to help others, and some do it for destructive reasons. Today, we're going to focus on the ones that do it for destructive reasons, okay? Now, when we're thinking about a criminal hacker, what I want you to do is picture your house you're living in right now, okay?
Okay.
In your home, you feel secure because you have an alarm system in your house, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And let's assume you have motion detectors and all your doors are secured and windows are secured, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now all of a sudden, you feel pretty good living there that it's probably pretty hard to break into that house.
I hope so.
Okay?
I hope
Yes.
so.
And when you think about large companies, that's the way they are right now. It's hard to break into the system because they have security in place. They understand. Most small companies are like we did things 20 years ago. You remember 20 years ago that
Mm-hmm.
you didn't have an alarm system in your house, did you?
No, no, no alarms, open windows, leave doors unlocked, pretty open.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and guess what? We had an alarm system that we never turned on.
Yeah, people didn't worry about security the way they do now.
But they should. That's the problem. They don't. And smaller companies often leave their back door open. They also they don't turn on the firewalls. They don't turn on the things that are necessary to protect them. Without proper security is an easy way for a hacker to target small business.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense,
Okay?
Kevin. That makes a lot of sense.
And to make it worse, a study was conducted and found out that a large percentage of small businesses surveyed did not use spam protection, spyware protection, and some didn't even bother having a firewall.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. So they're very, very vulnerable.
Yeah. And then you get the large companies who have the best security. They have all the protections, and they still get hacked.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, I know. I've heard so many large companies that have been hacked, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. I mean, some huge hacks that have cost millions of dollars.
So once they get into your system, money is rerouted, information is stolen, and system corrupted.
Mm-hmm. And Kevin, I know that these hackers, I mean, there's more than one way they can get into somebody's computer system, right? They're pretty savvy when it comes to getting in there.
Okay. This is what we'll talk about now. How do they get into the system? All right. There are basically three ways to get into the system. The first is they gain access at the physical site. They walk right into the premises. It's just like somebody coming into your house right now, taking your laptop, taking your computer, your TV, your jewelry, just walking right in. It's the same thing that they will do the same thing. They'll walk into your building, they'll take your laptop, computers, and even take your server and walk out of the building.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay? Now, what they may do is come to your office masquerading as a IT professional, helping to solve some kind of problem you may have. They may come in as an exterminator or janitor, saying, guess what? It's that time of the month we have to clean up, go right to your server. Okay? And then what they'll do is they put a USB drive, a thumb drive inside there. Okay?
Wow. Okay.
Or what they may do is attach a piece of equipment on top of the server, which kind of just gives all the information that's in there to somebody off-site. And then what they do is they leave a sign there that says security, do not unplug. Because once you see a sign to security, do not unplug, what do you do?
You don't touch it. Yeah.
You walk away from
It looks very official, so you're not going to touch it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first way. It's the physical, going to the physical site. The second way, and it's more the traditional way, the one that we hear of all the time, is someone from the outside sending malware or a virus and hope somebody's open up their email or PDF, and bam, now all of a sudden you're inside the system. It's like somebody pull up in front of your house and sending their friends inside there to do all and looting and everything like that, so, while the other person is safely back away. So that's the second way. Okay. Second way is, again, sending out the malware and the viruses and just seeing what get caught. Now, the last way, the final way, and it's really interesting, it's probably one of the easiest way to get information and most damaging is through social engineering. Now, social engineering is to manipulate an individual so they give up confidential information, usually by tricking them. Okay? Just by tricking. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I get emails all the time that look very official. They look like they're coming from my bank or from an official business saying I need to change my password. Click on this link. Yes, and that would be an example of this, right, Kevin?
Exactly. Hackers use something called phishing or spear phishing because it's easier for me to trick you to give me your password than it is to hack the system. I'll take that one phone call or that one email that says, guess what? Your system right now or your bank has been overdrawn or handled. In fact, this is interesting. I just read about this 2 days ago. A 16-year-old used social engineering to dupe Verizon workers into turning over personal information about the CIA Director, John Brenner, and the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper.
Wow. Okay, so a 16-year-old is hacking the CIA and the National Intelligence Department. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That is usually I worried about my driver's license, getting my driver's license back then, and he's hacking the CIA. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Again, and social engineering to pick up the phone and call up, AOL. In fact, it got involved with AOL also. So it's really interesting. Social engineering is really one of those things where you're playing with people's mind as opposed to trying to dig into the information.
And it just shows how vulnerable even security, the government is and large businesses from a 16-year-old. Look at how vulnerable they are. Can you imagine other businesses out there?
And 16-year-olds live in condominiums, right?
Yeah, exactly. Obviously. They're going to take over the world.
Now, Sherry, this is the thing now next. So those are the three areas that are important. Now, once they get inside the system, what the hackers do, what they're looking for is credit card information, social security numbers, banking information, email addresses, client information, anything that would turn a profit. Now, one of the more common tricks is to use the hacked email address to masquerade as an employee, vendor, or client. Okay? What he does is use that fraudulent email address to get the employee, vendor, or client to wire some type of payment to some kind of other fictitious account.
Okay.
All right, let me give you an example. A board member received an email that appeared to be from the landscaper, requesting a payment to be made to avoid late fees. Now, they requested the money and make sure he sent it to a different bank because they said there was an ongoing audit, so they said, this is not the bank. Don't use Bank of America anymore. Go to Citibank.
Okay, so they changed the accounts. They asked them to change banks. Okay. Interesting.
The payment was made to the new bank, and the board member received a past due notice from the landscaper later that month. And guess what? The landscaper's email account had been hacked, and the payment instructions that was given to them was fraudulent.
Okay, but it looked like it really was coming. Actually, it did come from the landscaper's email address, but they'd hacked his email address.
And send the same memo out to all the clients of the landscaper, asking for money or there'll be a late payment.
Okay. Wow. So this is scary.
Yeah, and one more thing about it. Guess what? The landscaper still wanted the payment.
Oh, of course. Yeah, they weren't paid, so they still need to be paid, right? So now it turns into a mess. It turns into a big mess. And Kevin, now we talk about the CIA being hacked and large corporations and a hospital you mentioned just recently hacked. The community associations, they don't have experience or expertise to protect their information, and they don't have the background, correct?
Yeah, and that's the problem there. That's why right now we believe that community associations are a prime target for cybercrime. The main problem for community association board members is that they are made up of volunteers.
Absolutely. Yeah, at my association, the board is all volunteers. And, from what I know, I haven't seen them, they don't seem to have any training or expertise in managing my condominium association. They're just, just regular people running the business.
Yeah, and And that's the problem because they have very little oversight for people handling those funds. I mean, there's no requirement to be a treasurer in your community association. No job to be, no requirement to be the president. All you have to do is show up, raise your hand, and you're now the treasurer.
Right, you're handling the money.
And then they turn over handling all the funds, even the reserve account, which should never happen, all to the independent third-party property manager, and again, with very little oversight.
Absolutely.
And one of the problems, too, and you kind of mentioned this a few seconds ago, is that once you are on the board of directors of the community associations, they don't treat it the way they should. They treat it as a hobby or a social club where they basically sit down and talk about their favorite book or their favorite movie or what's coming up for the Academy Awards, and they should treat it as it is. It's a major corporation, and if an association has 100 units, and the average value is 100,000, the association is managing a $10 million corporation.
So that's a lot of responsibility, Kevin.
Yeah.
A lot of responsibility.
And your board of directors, they don't realize it. And to take it one step further, when we talk about cybercrime, they have no idea, no understanding about what's involved there. And they have to understand it because it's their job to protect that personal information that's entrusted to them. They even have a fiduciary, not only a fiduciary responsibility, but a legal responsibility to make sure they protect the personal identifiable information that they see, they come in contact with every single day.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think they don't understand the risk.
And if a board becomes aware of the cyber situation, they have to then decide what to do with that knowledge. If they ignore it or handle it incorrectly, they could be sued for non-disclosure. If they disclose too soon, it could damage the community association reputation.
Wow, that's pretty scary. And now, Kevin, we talked a little bit earlier about the data breach coach. I would think this would come in handy right here. I mean, to help an association guide them along and make sure that they're doing the right things when it comes to protecting the information.
Yeah. Again, it goes back to that lack of experience, lack of expertise. When you lose a laptop, what do you do next? Is it a data breach? Is it an incident? You don't know. That's why it's important to have that coach.
That data breach coach. And again, we're going over a lot of important information today. If anybody would like a copy of the presentation, please send me an email to sbranson@kdins.com, and I'm happy to send you a copy. Or if you have any questions about what we go over today, please send me your question in an email as well. And now, Kevin, you just mentioned a little while ago the property management company. A lot of associations turn over the managing of the reserve funds and everything to the property management company. So they're collecting all this data and they're collecting funds. So how does they tie into this cyber crime situation?
This is a very important part because community association board members believe that if they turn over all their data to the management company or the cloud, some of a third party, they are no longer responsible. This may not be true. Remember, the person who owns the system may not be the same person who owns the data.
Okay.
Okay? All right?
Okay.
Let me give you an example. Okay? If the community association uses the management company to collect monthly assessments, which includes their name, bank information, credit card information, and the management company system is hacked, the community association still have the legal obligation to disclose the incident to unit owners and to regulators.
Okay, why is that, Kevin?
Okay, now, the only way they won't be responsible, and this is the important thing, is that if they have a contract that says the third party, the management company, is going to be responsible for disclosing the information.
Okay, so if they have a contract in place, that's the only time they're not legally responsible to disclose.
Exactly. Yep. They have to have a contract in place that says the third party is responsible for disclosing the information.
Okay.
Now, an even better way, what they should do is have the contract that indemnifies the community association in the event a data breach where a third party is at fault.
Okay.
So the two things they have to have. They have to have a contract that says they're responsible, and even better, a contract that says they indemnify. If they don't have that, then the community association itself is responsible.
Okay, that's very important information, and you may have more questions about this, so give us a phone call or send us an email to clarify this. Thank you, Kevin. And now with these breaches, if a breach does occur, I'm assuming that lawsuits are inevitable.
Yeah. the loss costs right now associated with data breaches are going through the roof. These high-profile breaches that you're hearing about more and more. Like last year, we had Anthem that was exposed to 78 million customers and employees, and then another 11 customers at Premera Blue Cross. Okay?
Wow. Okay.
In 2015, the number of U.S. data breaches tracked was 781, with 169 million records exposed. This is according to the Identity Theft Resource Center. Again, if you ever want any information, Identity Theft Resource Center keeps things up to date. In 2014, the number of records exposed was 85 million. So it went from 85 million to 169 million in 1 year.
Wow. So it's dramatically going up. Each year they're seeing more and more records being stolen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now we can talk about the big one, Target. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at Target, what happened there? They estimated that 40 million credit and debit card numbers were hacked, and 70 million customers' records were stolen. 70 million. Okay.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And the cost, we talked about the cost itself, $88 million in breach-related expense only. $88 million. $200 million spent on reissuing new credit cards by banks and credit unions. $100 million just to upgrade the system. Okay? And their profits dropped 46% when compared to the previous year.
46%. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
A smaller company that would have closed a smaller company, but because they're so large, they were able to stay in business. And Kevin, I've even heard that some analysts are predicting the total cost of this whole breach to exceed $1 billion.
$1 billion, yeah. And I believe this is what really got everybody's attention when we talk about data breach. This thing would happen with Target. It was such a huge thing and so big that all of a sudden, we're starting to really talk more and more about data breach and what the effects are in terms of not only financial. We talk about things like the cost of fixing, finding the problem and fixing the problem, legal fees, updating the system. It is really amazing what can happen when you talk about the litigation, when you talk about the cost to fix it. And you're right. Some of these businesses will shut down as a result of being a victim of cybercrime.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And now, Kevin, we're looking at some really large numbers on the screen right now. And as we said, it may exceed $1 billion, their total costs related to this breach. How are you calculating the cost of these data breaches?
Okay. This is, again, everything I'm saying is important, but this is really an important piece here. When you look at the following chart, there are 8 costs associated with data breaches, 8 of them. And we'll go through these things. The first one we talk about is forensic examination. The examination itself determines if there's a breach, the severity of the breach, and the scope of the breach. It may be an incident and may not have been an actual breach. So you have to have a forensic examination first.
Okay.
The second thing is that if it's an actual data breach, most states have enacted data breach notification laws when information is lost, stolen, or otherwise compromised. In the United States, 47 states require security breach notification and enact penalties if the organization does not notify with the individuals in a timely manner.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. Third thing, call centers. Companies should provide a phone number in the notification letter for individuals wanting more information about the extent of the breach.
Okay.
Credit or identity monitoring. When credit or identity monitoring is not requested by most states, by most state notification laws is not required, but we believe that providing this service maintains good customer relationship.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Okay. We have a PR firm. A company may engage a PR firm that specializes in damage control to help reduce the harm in its reputation. So you should have a PR firm. Legal defense. When we talk about legal defense, we're talking about being sued as a result of the data breach. So once you have the data breach, you can be sued because you didn't have proper security in place. So you have to pay legal defense as a result of the data breach if you're sued in that manner.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The next one is regulatory fines and penalties. So a company may have to defend itself against investigations launched by any federal or state authority, such as the Federal Trade Commission or the State Attorney General's Office.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And 8, and finally, something called a comprehensive written information security program. Okay? When we talk about that, we're talking about when a regulatory agency is involved. After the breach, they may require a comprehensive written information security program that has to be implemented just to make sure that breach doesn't happen again.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. That's
Okay.
what all the costs that we have to be concerned about when you're involved in a data breach.
Okay, that's a lot of areas that have to be covered and that can be very expensive, legal defense, public relations. I mean, it all costs a lot of money, so that's why the associations have to be extremely careful and make sure they have the right coverage just in case one does happen. And now, Kevin, when we talk about the cyber risk coverage, it's pretty affordable, isn't it? And it's providing protection for all of these situations that we're discussing earlier.
Yes. Now, this is the important part. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about a lot of the coverage because what's going to happen is that over the next couple of months, we're going to have a webinar that talks about cyber coverages in depth. Next month and the following month, we'll talk about cyber crime in depth. So I'm going to kind of give you an overview about what we're talking about. Now, first thing you have to notice when you talk about cyber crime for community associations is that not all cyber policies are alike. There's no standard cyber policy out there. Now, you have situations where coverage can be added to the D&O policy or an equipment breakdown policy at a small charge, but the coverage is very limited. Okay? Now, in order to provide the best coverage, you need a separate cyber policy. Now, what we're having right now, what we have available is a cyber policy with about a $250,000 limit and the premiums around $500.
Okay, that's very affordable.
Yeah. Now, this is the important part. Again, more important part. When you think about cyber coverage, there are two exposures that need to be addressed. The first is the loss of data by the individual not authorized to have that information. When that happens, you have cyber insurance coverage. The other type of exposure involves money. It's the unauthorized transfer of funds by an employee or a non-employee. This coverage is provided by the crime policy.
Okay, so there's two different types of cyber coverage going on. Okay.
Yeah. It's important that your community associations have both a cyber policy to protect them from the loss of information and a crime policy to provide the loss of money.
Okay. That's good. That's good to know. Okay, if you have any questions about this, please send an email.
All right, now, the cyber policy itself has 4 insuring agreements that you have to be concerned about, and the crime has 4 insuring agreements you can be concerned about. Now, both cyber and both crime has more insuring agreements, but right now we're going to talk about these 4 because these 4 are the more important ones.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when we talk about the cyber policy, we're talking about 2 liability coverages and 2 first-party coverages.
Okay.
The 2 liability parties are network and information security liability, which provide coverage when you are sued because of the data breach.
Okay.
Number 2 is regulatory defense expense when claims are made by the government. For example, state laws require you to notify individuals within 30 days. If you do not, there can be fines and penalties attached. This policy pays for the fines and penalties.
Okay, government fines and penalties. Okay.
Okay. The next 2 are first party. The security breach notification expense covers the cost to notify the victims of the breach.
Okay.
They have crisis management expense that covers to hire a public relations firm to rebuild the company's reputation.
Okay. So those are the 4 related to the, I have it, I've got it. Those are the 4 related to the cyber risk policy. Okay.
Okay? All right. All right. Now we talk about the crime part of it. We talk about the crime. We talked about, number 1, employee dishonesty. We all know what employee dishonesty is. This covers when an employee is involved with the unauthorized funds transfer.
Okay.
You have computer crime. This coverage applies when a non-employee enters the premises, obtains the password that was on your laptop, goes in your system, and steals funds.
Okay.
Okay. The third one is funds transfer. Coverage applies when the virus is introduced to your system or attachment to a password, they get into the system, and again, transfer money out of the system into another banking into the situation. Okay?
Okay.
And then finally, we have something that's new that most people are not talking about is social engineering coverage, which insures for social engineering fraud. This is that new insuring agreement under the crime policy that pays the insured for loss from transferring, paying, or delivering funds caused by social engineering.
Okay. And social engineering, Kevin, that when I talked earlier, I had received an email from my fake bank, asking me to change my password and to make a transfer, etc. So if I had clicked on that and changed my password and made that transfer, that would have been social engineering fraud.
Exactly. And let's say you were the treasurer of your condominium association, and that letter came in from the president of the association, and a fictitious letter. That's what you talk about social engineering crime loss.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right. So, a lot of information, right?
Yes. We had a lot of information today, a lot of great information. Very, very
Yeah.
helpful information.
But I think the key thing here is that what we want to do is kind of give you a broad overview so you understand that cyber coverage is important. Businesses today face more and more threat from cyber exposures, and it's growing, it's continuing. It's not going away anytime soon. We're going to hear more and more about data breaches as time goes on. By being aware of the impact of cyber on your organization, purchasing adequate insurance, condos, management companies have done their best to safeguard information and money to avoid costly lawsuits.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much for a very informative webinar. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. If you'd like a copy of our specimen policy for our cyber risk policy and an application and a marketing flyer on cyber risk, please send me an email to sbranson@kdins.com, and I'm happy to email you the application, the specimen policy, and the marketing flyer. And please join us in March as we go over the cyber risk insurance policy in depth. Thank you very much and have a great afternoon. Take care. Bye, Kevin.
Okay. All right. Bye.